Good evening. I call this regular meeting of the Victoria City Council to order. It's our tradition to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is announcements. A workshop has been scheduled for Monday, June 14th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss possible code revisions as part of the city's comprehensive code review project. Our 6-month-long budget process kicks off with a workshop on Monday, June 28th at 5 p.m. where council will discuss the preliminary 2022 budget. The council will also hold a workshop on Monday, July 12th at 5:30 to review and discuss recommendations for the city's long-term facility space planning needs. All city council meetings are open to the public and held in the city council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we encourage anyone wanting to attend our council meetings or workshops in person to contact our city clerk in advance so we can ensure proper physical distancing. In other announcements, Victoria residents can now take their yard race to our old Public Works building on Staryear Lake Lane on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday during daylight hours throughout the month of May. The City Council will be recognizing city volunteers and outgoing advisory board members and kicking off our new Community Builder event at Bayfront Park in downtown Victoria on Friday, June 18th at 3:30. There will also be a ribbon cutting at Lake Wasserman Lake Preserve at 4 p.m. on Monday, June 28th. We welcome everyone to these events. Please watch our social media channels or check out our website for more information on any of these activities. There is one proclamation this evening, and I will read that from the dais now. It's Proclamation 2021-02, a proclamation declaring May 2021 Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses, and whereas mental illnesses affect almost every family in America, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has been a reminder of the importance of integrating mental health into preparedness and response plans for public health emergencies, and whereas because of the COVID-19 pandemic, nearly 40% of adults in the United States reported at least one adverse mental or behavioral health condition, including symptoms of depression, since the start of the pandemic response in March 2020. And whereas this does not include the significant ripple effect on families and friends. The impact of mental illness reaches families, neighborhoods, schools, and the workplace. And whereas stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help. And whereas an important part of educating the community and erasing stigma is raising awareness around the fact that mental health services are not simply a therapist or a medication prescriber. Caring for mental health may also include services and supports that help individuals recover holistically, inclusive of their social, vocational, and community contributions. And whereas mental health recovery not only benefits individuals with mental health disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, but also enriches the culture of our community life. And whereas May has been recognized as National Mental Health Awareness Month since 1949. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Victoria do hereby proclaim Mental Health Awareness Month for May 2021 in the City of Victoria, Minnesota. Open forum. We are now moving on to our next item, which is the open forum. It's the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not in application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. This evening, we had several residents register with our city clerk to speak at open forum. First, we have our annual update from the Victoria Library. I'd like to now welcome Ms. Heidi Hoks, and Mr. Patrick Jones is here as well to the podium. Please state your name and title for the record and proceed with your report. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mayor, council people, and staff. My name is Heidi Hoks. I'm the director of the Carver County Regional Library System, of which Victoria is a part. And I'm going to direct your attention to the annual report that you have before you. And all I can say is 2020, what a year. But no matter how tough 2020 was, there's something good that always happens in tough situations. We learn things. We learned, for example, that our staff was not only talented, was not only customer service driven, was not only innovative, they also were resilient, as you can read in the first page. And they brought to the table many different ways that people could still use their libraries, even though their libraries were closed. Things like increased electronic materials for checkout, things like curbside service, where people could come and pick up their books that had been selected for them or were on hold. Things like grab-and-go service once we finally opened the doors, computers by appointment, all numbers of things, even the non-physical things like virtual story times and much, much more. You'll see that within the 2 pages in your annual report. You'll also see thank you notes from our patrons who were so pleased. And if that's not enough, that was the qualitative data. The quantitative data is on the back page. We increased our electronic resource checkout by more than double. We increased so many forms of social media membership by anywhere from 70% to 85%. Incredible, incredible things. Truly, it was a year of collections, connections, and course corrections. And you know what? We're still going to be going through course corrections, and we're asking your help on that. Every 5 years, we do a strategic plan, a full strategic plan, where we ask the public to come in for interviews, for focus groups. We send out electronic surveys to all members of the library community. And what we'll be doing is coming to you through Dana, your city manager, to find out if there are individuals you think would be excellent for us to contact over this next year, to find out where you want your library headed, because that's what's most important, that we listen to you and we find out where we should go from what the public wants. And by the way, I know you've been waiting to hear about your library, the Victoria Library, which is a great library, and you have a great branch manager leading it. So I'm going to call on Patrick Jones, your branch manager, to do that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Heidi. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Patrick Jones. I'm the branch manager here at the Victoria Branch Library. And just want to make sure this is working. Fantastic. You have 2 service points here. You have the wonderful library downstairs, and you also have a second location at the Victoria Rec Center, an express library, so people can pick up reserves on their time schedule whenever the rec center is open. We closed up the library on March 19th when all the libraries closed. It took us a few weeks, but we got a curbside pickup service up and running by May 11th. That averaged anywhere from 30 to 40 bags a week once it kind of caught on. We had people pounding on the door, giving us lots of thumbs up, which was really nice to see. And so I think we had a pretty good response compared to other libraries. The folks here at Victoria really took to the curbside service. Because of that small space down there, those who've been down there, it is a very small space in many ways. Gathering a bunch of people in there was not a good idea, so we had to wait until we got the all clear from our public health department. And then on March 29th, so just a few weeks ago, we reopened the doors. We've had about an average of 50 to 60 people in per day. Some days a little higher, some days a little lower. We have a new staff member down there in Tricia, and we have another one, Jane Ann, so our staff has kind of turned over during the pandemic. What we have downstairs is a library for kids. 60% of our circulation of what goes out of that building still goes out for kids, and that was even true during the pandemic. We have 3 or 4 prolific library users who are checking out 100 books every week for their children. And we do this all with the support of a wonderful Friends group that meets about 4 times a year, and they raise money through a book sale that helps us out. But what mostly helps us out is having the support of the local city government and the work that Dana and her staff does to make sure that our library is up and running successfully. And we are looking forward to another successful year. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Heidi or you can reach out to me directly, and we're happy to take any questions you might have now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your perseverance in that very difficult year. Terrific. I think we don't have any questions from council. Terrific. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Cindy.
Next, we have Mikala Larson from Carver County. Ms. Larson, welcome. Please step to the podium and state your title for the record.
Hello, everybody. Madam Mayor and council members, thanks for having me. My name is Mikala Larson. I'm serving as a waste reduction, recycling, and organics management member in the Minnesota Green Corps, which is an AmeriCorps program. So yeah, thank you so much for having me and allowing me some time to talk about our new program, new efforts in this organics recycling program in Carver County. In my service with the county, I am leading the organics recycling charge with this program and making sure we get a lot of people signed up. So I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about it today. So to start out with, this is a program that is a partnership between Suburban Waste Services, which is a waste hauler, and Carver County. And this program is available to Suburban Waste Services customers in Victoria and some areas of Chaska. So through this program, the customers of Suburban Waste Services they have access to an organics recycling program, which is a program that will allow customers and participants in the program to recycle household organics as well as yard waste in 2 separate services. And this program is being brought to these areas through a subsidy from Carver County. So for the first 200 people to sign up for this program, Carver County will be offering the subsidized service fee as well as kitchen collection pail and initial supply of compostable bags. So that is the hope to get folks who sign up, get them started with their organics recycling efforts. And so why is Carver County subsidizing this program? So we'll talk about this a little more later, but in order to meet a state-mandated recycling goal, Carver County is expanding recycling efforts, and this includes organics recycling. We're putting our effort behind organics recycling because of its huge potential to reduce waste from the waste stream. Because, as the slide says, because organics recycling is an additional cost to yard waste through Suburban Waste Services, the county is subsidizing that cost. And this is with the hope to build a really strong foundation in the organics recycling program now with a subsidized fee so that in future years we'll have a strong program to go off of. So as it says on the slide, the goal is to build the organics recycling program and get a lot of participants. So how the program works, as I mentioned, this program is open to Suburban Waste Services customers in Victoria and in parts of Chaska. Those customers who would be interested could give Suburban Waste Services a call and mention that they'd like organics recycling. They will need yard waste services in order to add organics, but yard waste can be added at the same time. So customers can give Suburban Waste Services a call, sign up for the service, receive their kitchen pail, bags, and organics cart, and then begin with their organics recycling. As I passed out beforehand, the brochure that you all received is something that customers who sign up will also receive, and that's a brochure that will mention what items are acceptable and what items are not acceptable, and how to basically organics recycle. So some things that would be acceptable would be all food items, meat, bones, dairy, vegetable and fruit scraps, as well as food soiled paper such as pizza boxes or napkins, and coffee filters, and non-recyclable paper like tissues, coffee filters, paper towels, things like that, that traditionally would be a landfill item. We can now recover those items and turn them into compost. And so this program works on a co-collected organics system, and that plays back to the customer needing yard waste and organics service at the same time. The co-collected system allows the yard waste and the household organic waste to be collected in the same bin, instead of it being two separate bins and two separate trucks. As you can see in the picture on the slide, that bin holds both leaves and compostable bags. And so this type of a system reduces cost for the customer and the hauler, and it reduces wear and tear on the road. So it's a really great option, and one that Carver County uses for this program. So once the items are co-collected in the customer's bin, the items are going to be brought to the Minnesota Arboretum Source Separated Organics Compost site. This is located in Chanhassen. And as you can see, the top picture is a pile of compostable bags and yard waste co-collected and dumped onto the site. The bottom picture is a little hard to see, but the material is sorted into piles where they are monitored and turned so that that material becomes compost. So it's a very controlled, careful process to make sure that that material is managed properly instead of just going to a landfill. So at our site, the organization Specialized Environmental Technologies manages the compost there and makes it into compost. At this site, we are, Marcus Spinden here is my colleague at Carver County, and he and I are able to do research at this site and test the compost and the surface water runoff, so it's a really great opportunity for us there. So why is it important to recycle organics? There's a couple main reasons that I wanted to touch on. Number one, organic material has no place in a landfill. It takes up a lot of valuable space, as Vicki will touch on later with landfill issues, and it releases methane gas as it decomposes, which is very toxic, more toxic than carbon dioxide. So we want to avoid that. And the next big reason is that organic material can create a really high value end product, which is compost, which I touched on earlier. Compost can be used in a number of applications, residential and agricultural. And compost is very nutrient dense. It provides structure to soil, water retention capabilities, and nutrients. So instead of something that is trash, it can be like organic material. It can be diverted to a compost pile and create this high value end product. The final main reason is what we kind of talked about earlier with the state mandated metro recycling goal. This is a state mandated goal that each metro county must reach 75% recycling by 2030. Carver County is currently at a 58% recycling rate. So as I mentioned earlier, organics recycling holds huge potential for recycling, and that is why the county is putting a lot of effort and energy behind this program to basically achieve as much as we can with a small output, which would be the organics recycling and expanding it throughout the county. So just some program numbers where we are at so far. So far we've sent out over 2,000 letters to Suburban Waste Services customers in Victoria and throughout Chaska. We have approximately 51 signups in Victoria and approximately 60 signups in Chaska so far. Our goal is 200 signups. So we're on our way there. And we've also sent out a survey that had really, really positive reviews, about a 30% response rate with 100% positive comments about the program. So that was exciting to see. Some program success I just wanted to highlight. We've received many positive comments from residents who are really excited about this program being offered in their area. Multiple emails and calls I get daily saying how happy they are to have this program and people sharing it among their neighbors and friends, which is really great to see that the people who are participating in the program are happily sharing it and spreading the word. And then just a comment from a recent sign-up. She had received the brochure in the mail and everything and sent me an email right away saying, thank you, I'm going to get everybody on board. We can't wait to reduce our garbage even more. So how can you sign up? Like I mentioned, we are still looking for more signups. Our goal is 200, and we are looking for approximately 90 more signups. There's how many spots are in the program remaining. So you can call Suburban Waste Services and say you'd like to sign up for organics recycling. The number is on the slide, 952-937-8900. And that is all. There's my information. I'm very happy to answer any questions or comments about the program. And yes, Council Member Black.
Yes, I just had a question about it's being co-collected. And you're putting it into your yard waste, but you're being subsidized to cover fees. So what would be the fee?
So the compost facility is going to be accepting that much more material. So if the customer is paying for yard waste, our compost facility is permitted to accept that much material. Now that the facility will be accepting organic material, we need that much more bandwidth basically to process that material. Do you want to expand on that, Marcus?
Sure, yeah, I work with Mikala, and there is an additional cost to organics processing. The operator has to take temperatures and turn the piles more often, so there's added cost to the facility that takes organics than one that just takes yard waste. That's
Okay,
cheaper.
got it.
So that's where the difference is.
Okay. Thank you. So, okay,
So, sorry, I didn't mean to.
go ahead. Councilmember Roberts.
So you put in the yard waste, but yard waste usually is not picked up in the months of November-ish so I'm assuming then it just goes into the garbage at that point because you guys are not running during that time, or how does that work?
If a person were to sign up for organics recycling, that organics recycling does continue year round. That's the difference between the two programs. So if you have organics recycling and yard waste, you can go year round with that collection. If one were to just have yard waste, their collection would stop in, I think, November. Okay. So you're missing out on basically November to April of collection.
I'd like to add though, it goes to every other week in the working months. Because the organics.
Right, because you don't have your leaves and stuff like that with it.
So do you put your organics in the yard waste container and put it out in the wintertime?
Correct.
Okay. So will you take more than 200 signups, or are you that's a pilot program and that's all you want for right now?
I believe we will take more, but the first 200 will be covered by the subsidy
Understood.
program.
Okay.
Yeah, that was because there's a lot of HOAs in Victoria. So like my neighborhood, right? We don't get to choose what we have. So I think you have the capacity to, if a whole neighborhood wanted to do this, to go ahead and do that.
Well, the hauler would be, I mean, it's unlimited. He could convert every yard
Sure.
waste into one. But as far as the county subsidy goes, we're allocated enough funds for 200 people.
Sure.
And we want Victoria to be Chaska, so let's go. Other questions?
Yeah, I may have missed this, and I apologize if I did, but what's the end goal? Are you selling it back as mulch, or is it being turned over to the cities, or what's the end goal after it's been turned over a few times?
Yeah, that's
I mean, I understand what the process is and what it's aimed at doing, but to what end are we doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this was not addressed, but Specialized Environmental Technologies, the company that is processing the material, they are a private organization. Do you want to expand on?
Sure. Well, yeah,
Marcus, can you come to the microphone, please?
sure. Sorry.
Yeah, otherwise people at home can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, SET, who operates the facility, they have an agreement with the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, and they supply the Arboretum with as much compost as they need, and then whatever's left over, they'll sell. They have several other locations throughout the metro area, and they consolidate that compost. Some of it's bagged, some of it's sold bulk. The one in Minnetrista, for example, is another site that's run by SCT, the mulch store. There's one in Shakopee, another location. So those are the places they'll sell the compost blends out of for horticulture and agricultural uses then.
So the county is facilitating the pickup, but then that's and the site, and then SET will process the material and take it from there.
Correct.
Other questions?
And then, so I guess this pilot goes for 3 years, right? And then at the end is the hopeful goal that it goes well enough that this is going to expand more, basically?
Correct, yeah. Right now, we have an agreement with SET and Suburban to offer it for 3 years. Depending on, our hope is that additional capacity will come online in the next 2 years, more sites. Right now, there's only very few sites that will take this in the metro area. There's interest of expanding that, additional sites. So the more sites, the cost will come down, and then the subsidy won't be necessary, is our hope. If a subsidy is needed, there is potential that the county will continue that to make sure that the customers maintain that service at the same cost.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Miss Vicki Bont. Miss Bont, please step forward and state your address for the record. Welcome.
Hi. Well, first of all, I want to thank the council and the mayor for letting us speak and having an open forum, because I know some of the municipalities around here don't do that. Very important. This program appealed to me when I covered it for the Victoria Gazette, but not enough to shell out the money to get a yard waste bin. But my husband, who was born in the 60s, the 50s, but was a teenager in the 60s and was an environmentalist then, like many of us were, said, hey, Vicki, wake up. We got to start doing this. And then in January, 5 landfills around the metro area filled up so much that the Minnesota Environmental Agency had to look at, are we going to close them? Are we going to grant them more room? Are we going to let them go higher? And it came to me, we can't keep filling those landfills. So I looked at this article and I realized what Marcus pointed out to you was these organics are not only taking up a lot of room, they're being sealed up like mummies for 150 years when they don't belong there. And this process actually puts them somewhere within a year, they turn into something very viable. And I encourage you all to go over to the south of the Arboretum and watch these piles go to 150 degrees within a week. Within a week, they start turning into something that's usable. This amendment, this soil amendment that's made is really not a mulch. It's a very, very valuable material that can only be created in a method like this from garbage. It's actually garbage. And pretty soon, there's this absolutely fabulous, valuable material. Some places like Milwaukee actually have a process like this where their city sells this product. It's called Milorganite. They actually use poop, too, in it. So this can become a very valuable commodity for a city to produce. And it's not just trash. The fact that we're getting a jump on it, a huge jump, is really neat. Our article that was in the paper was seen out in San Diego, and their garbage collection is just now getting to something like this. They used this to model their program on. Then they took it to San Jose, and all of Southern California now is looking at modeling their program on this program. That's pretty cool. We're ahead of San Diego, we're ahead of California. I think that's neat. So here's some things. I went around to 5 citizens and I said, what do you think of this program? What are some problems with it? Well, they said, none. In fact, we use our grocery bags instead of buying these specialized bags to put it in. And in the wintertime, it freezes so it doesn't smell. In the summertime, there's a little bit of problem. Well, actually, some of them haven't experienced it in the summer yet, but there's some smell. So we stick it in the refrigerator. I don't really have room in my refrigerator. But we're pioneers, so we got to do some experimentation with this. So we just stick it out in the garage and hope it doesn't smell too much. That's a problem. Also, we are kind of paying for it. Judy made a very good point. We are paying for that bin. But we also pay for recycling. One really great advantage is this is my recycling bin, about this big. It's full every week. This is my composting bin, and it has my organics in it. It is so full. And in fact, you can put stuff on the side and they will pick it up. It is full. Here's my garbage bin now. It's this little tiny thing. I feel so good about this. This is all I'm sending to the landfill. Has 2 bags in it a week. I feel like a superhero. And when I talk to these young people on my street, they're in tune with this. When I talk to the old hippies on my street, we feel so good. I have to tell you, I think that's the biggest thing about it. I just feel really good about it. Take a trip out and see what this stuff is doing. Take a trip to St. Bonnie and see the bags of this really precious stuff. So, am I being played off? Is this the Academy Awards? The other thing is, like Marcus said, they're going to try to expand this program, and let's beat Chaska. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bont. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome Pastor Kevin Sharpe from the Westbrook Community Church to the podium. Pastor, welcome. Thank you for your patience with us this evening.
Yes, well, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to speak. And I just want to say that just want to let you guys know that we're almost ready to move into our building. It's going to be done. We'll get occupancy the end of this week. And so we're going to take a month to move in, and then on June 13th will be our first services, and that'll be 9 and 10:30, and you're welcome to those. But also I wanted to especially invite you to our building dedication, which will be in the afternoon of June 13th at 4:30. And so I just wanted to come and invite the council to that. We're excited about being in the community and being part of Victoria, so.
Welcome
Thanks.
to Victoria. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address the council? Step forward. Come on up. Step forward. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
Brandon Schomburg. I'm a citizen over in Deer Run neighborhood at 8779 Ridge Ponds Lane. Take this off. I just want to thank Madam Deborah and council members. I appreciate all your time today with the discussion on automatic pool covers for consideration. Although I'm, to say I'm disappointed is an understatement. I appreciate the dialogue that you guys had just as a citizen, and the importance of this for my family. It's just, first and foremost, safety is a priority, which I appreciate. That was the focus of that conversation, which is what it should be, is the safety for your family and my family. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old kid. So the importance of this is, I've been here for a couple hours waiting to speak here. So I was just disappointed at the outcome of how it happened so quickly without being able to at least voice my concern or opinion. Because what I heard from the council is we don't have time for this, which I took that as we don't have time for you or the other neighbors within my neighborhood. It's my wife's birthday today. I'm getting deployed to the Middle East in August. So this was a priority for me to try to at least get some type of resolution. So to hear like this wasn't a priority, just kind of, I think it hit me as an individual of a citizen within Victoria, where elected officials are at least trying to at least hear the opinion from both myself and all the other neighbors that I presented with a 20-page proposal to at least consider exploring the options, which I had hoped would have been the outcome one way or the other, but that was the ultimate decision that I was hoping to move forward. I outlined the detailed report of all the safety benefits of the automatic pool cover, which does meet international, national, and state codes. And, getting this in the mail I don't know if it was this week, but I applaud all you guys that put this together, from the leaders at the city council. I mean, this is great. This is why I love being in Victoria, of seeing how just the city has transformed from when I moved here, I would guess 5-ish years ago. But I look at some of the priorities here with Madam Deborah here about looking into the future. And that's what, I started to think about that even more so last night, even after the proposal I sent to all council members here, is public safety. So the strategic priority number 6 within the Victoria spirit. And that's hopefully I kind of sense that being a Victoria resident is that spirit that we have within Victoria. Is the priority number 6 is public safety. So of course, automatic pool covers has shown to be safe. I won't have my 4- and 6-year-old or even my neighbors, their children within there without being present or a lock key. I think that, in my opinion, is more safe than a fence around my property. I just feel as a homeowner, I should at least be given a right to be able to choose what makes most sense with my home, whether it's a fence or automatic pool cover. I feel like that right was kind of like taken away from me when a lot of other cities within Minnesota and nationally have adapted to giving homeowners, which, I work in healthcare, we always try to give the patient choices in what they're able to do. That makes a happy patient, and for a community, if you're able to give the homeowner a choice in what makes most sense for them, whether it's a fence or automatic safety cover, whatever is best for that landscape of that individual's home, whatever is best for that individual's family, I would hope that you would just reconsider that as an option to explore that future option. Because when you look at the strategic priority, it's a safe community and public safety. I appreciate hearing, this is my first council meeting, by the way. I appreciate that. But even the sheriff department, just hearing how that resonated with all the individuals here and asking those initiatives of getting that community awareness and how do you do that outreach. I mean, you're promoting safety within the community, which is why I put that automatic pool cover safety stuff together for you so you could outline and see the protocols that are in place by the American Pool Societies of this is a safe and more innovative approach, which says in our goal here is a safe community and public safety for innovation and implementation of technology in public safety. So I would argue to the fact that innovation of technology in public safety, which falls in line with automatic pool cover. So I'm just going in line with the Victoria spirit and how that falls in, and hope you can just reconsider and just code, compliance, and regulations. So that's number 1. I circled that when I was looking through the city of Victoria and trying to embody that spirit. That's number 1. The other 3 things out of the 8 priorities of Victoria is recreation and culture. We want open spaces that connect people with nature and to each other. It says that right there. So, why, if you're giving the homeowner a chance or an option to do that, you're saying closing that space, another sound off, but you're closing that and not connecting with your neighbors or the nature. So I'm just reverberating this so you kind of paint the picture of how I look at Victoria as someone who's only been here for 5 years, but I want to be here for 30 years or 50 years, and then services that meet changing needs of the community. COVID happened, pandemic happened, people are spending more times at home. How are we supporting those individuals that, again, I joke with my friends and family, I don't have a boat, I don't have a cabin, this is going to be my, kind of our thing for our family that we're going to create memories in our backyard. So how are we supporting that services that meet the changing needs of the community? And then, healthy experiences. I would argue that pools are very healthy. It's good they get friends and neighbors and everyone engaged in doing some pool aerobics, potentially. Priority number 8, environmental sustainability. We talked a lot about organic waste, and I think that's a great initiative. But protecting the environment and services related to water bodies, automatic pool cover, again, it does save, water waste by creating a barrier to prevent evaporation. So it does, again, kind of pulling that in there, but for strategic priority number 8. And then strategic priority number 3 is community character, a good quality of life, and that will protect and enhance Victoria's unique character. And that's how I look at these priorities that are outlined from all of you, as where does that direction, how are we wanting that city to go? So I felt like that conversation, I wasn't given that right to at least speak before that decision was made. So I just hope that you guys would reconsider and at least continue to explore options based on the strategic priorities of the Victoria spirit that are laid out here, and how can we look at options that still give homeowners right, while also the number one thing is safety for our community and safety for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberg.
Questions?
I don't know what to say.
No,
I'm just asking if you guys
you
can
wanna
reconsider and explore it.
we can't make a decision at the open forum on this, so we can't make a decision at the open forum on it. So we'll talk with staff about it and see what our options are.
At the end with the reports?
I do have a question, if that's okay,
Yeah, go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor. It's just, so is your decision upon a pool dependent upon fence or no fence?
No, either way, I mean, we still want to have a pool for the memories for our family, and looking at research from the fence and the automatic pool cover, the automatic pool cover, in my opinion, does provide a better safety barrier for my young children than a fence. Again, that's my opinion. And there is some research and testing that backs up that the use of the automatic pool cover over a fence. And I've got, from the proposal I sent you guys, I tried to get a very diverse background of my neighbors that are close to me that have been in the neighborhood for 20 years. I got new people that are newer to the neighborhood to get their feedback. Another neighbor that has a background in landscaping and how the thaw shifts, and that can change over time, and how the latches don't close. So I tried to get different diverse experiences of feedback for you guys for review consideration. But to answer your question, I mean, we're still going to go with the pool for our family, and that's what we're going with. It was something that we were going to do in 2022, but looking at the increase in pricing, and then when I got back from my deployment, it just, without that component, we just wanted to get it started now, so when I get back, then it'll be available to use.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberg.
Again, thanks for all the council members and for Mayor W. Thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Any other members from the public who wish to address council? Seeing no one, now we will move on to our agenda. Our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, is there a motion to adopt the agenda, final agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine administrative and do not require deliberation, or housekeeping items required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent items for a separate discussion?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Council, anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Any member of the audience who wishes to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, council, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now on to our regular agenda. The first item on the agenda is agenda item 6.1, an overview of the Southwest Transportation Coalition. Our presenter was not able to join us this evening, so at that point, I would take a motion to table this item for a future meeting.
I make a motion to table this item to a future meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who made the second? Is it?
Oh, Jen. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Next, item 6.2, Madelyn Trail Preliminary Plat and Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Presenting this evening is Mr. Dahl. Mr. Dahl, the floor is yours.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. As you mentioned before you this evening is a proposal for a preliminary plat and a comprehensive plan amendment for the Madelyn Trail development presented by Pulte Homes. So just a little bit of background on this project. The came back application earlier this year. A neighborhood meeting was held on February 23rd of 2021, where residents within 350 feet of the subject property were invited to participate, and that feedback was provided when the council reviewed the sketch plat. So that sketch plat was reviewed by the Planning Commission on March 2nd, and you as the council on March 8th. And then just recently, last week on May 4th, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing to review the preliminary plat, comp plan amendment, and rezoning, and did recommend approval of that on a 7-0 vote. So as a refresher of the area we are talking about, this property is located at 1125 78th Street West. It is south of 78th Street and east of the future Cochia Lane extension. The applicant is proposing 49 single-family lots on a parcel that is approximately 20 acres. Approximately 13.6 of those are developable. The property is just to the south of the Whispering Hills development, to the east of some residential parcels, to the west of a larger residential parcel, and then to the north of agricultural farmland. As I mentioned, this item does have a proposed comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning that we will talk about here in just a minute. Currently, the parcel is used for agricultural purposes. It's mostly tilled farmland and grasses. There is a barn shed building that's proposed to be removed. There are some small wetlands within the parcel that are proposed to be filled by the applicant. However, there is a larger 1.2 acre wetland in the center of the parcel that is proposed to be restored. And in addition, this property is within the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, so like all other developments within that watershed district would be subject to their rules. As I noted, there is a proposal for a comprehensive plan amendment for this property, the reason being that it is currently guided as public institutional. The reason for this is that the property is owned by Independent School District 112. They had purchased this in the early 2000s as a possible future school location. As we know, an elementary school was later subsequently built farther south in Victoria. And so late last year, the school board determined that they would like to try to sell this parcel for development. So the applicant is proposing that amendment from public institutional to low density residential, which is defined as 2.25 to 6 units per acre in our comp plan. And at the 13.6 developable acres, this proposal would yield 3.61 units per acre, which would be within that comp plan amendment. The parcel will also require rezoning as it's currently zoned as agricultural and agricultural. The applicant is proposing rezoning to planned unit development with an R1 single family underlying zoning. Here and also included in your background packet is the layout for the property showing the 49 proposed lots as well as that large wetland complex in the center. We'll talk about some of the other pieces of this as we continue the presentation, but we can come back to this slide as part of the discussion. So as I noted, the applicant is proposing to zone this property as PUD. The lot regulations that are being proposed are a minimum of 8,665 square foot lot with a minimum 68 foot width, lot depth of 130 feet. The side yard setback is proposed at 9 feet each side and a 15-foot corner lot with 30-foot front and rear setbacks and a max impervious surface of 5,000 square feet per lot. The lots do vary in size quite a bit in this development from that minimum of 8,665 to a lot of 21,300 square feet. But when you find the median lot there, it's approximately 9,600 square feet being the median. In addition, as you may recall, both the Planning Commission and City Council provided some additional feedback related to side yard setbacks, and the applicant was able to increase those side yard setbacks in their proposal from 8 feet to 9 feet each side, with that reduction in corner lot setback. In addition, for those that watched the Planning Commission meeting prior to tonight's meeting, there was some lengthy discussion related to impervious surface. So staff did receive some additional information from the applicant and did some calculations based on that impervious surface question. As I mentioned, the applicant is proposing 5,000 square feet, where there was some question as to whether or not that was the adequate way to calculate that versus typically what has been done as a percentage. So this slide includes some of that information as to how that would break down with a 5,000 square foot maximum impervious surface. The applicant has indicated that their largest home pad and driveway would need approximately 4,000 square feet of impervious. So at 5,000 square feet, you're looking at 1,000 square feet per lot of additional impervious, with a max additional site-wide impervious addition of 49,000 square feet, putting that site-wide percentage at about 45. Looking at the percentage that changes, it varies based on the lot size pretty greatly, from 348 additional square feet of impervious that could be added by a homeowner to up to 6,600. And then that does actually equate to a larger total of additional impervious surface that could be added. So staff does intend to continue to work with the developer on this impervious surface calculation, but if there's any thoughts on this by the council when we get to the discussion, it'd be appreciated. Moving on to buffers and screening. So the applicant is proposing some a buffer between the rear yards of homes that abut both the future extension of Cochia Lane and 78th Street West. That includes some modest elevation changes, as you can see in the graphics that are on your screen, as well as a 25-foot planting buffer that we'll show an exhibit of here just a moment. But you can see some of the direction that was provided by both the Planning Commission and the City Council during sketch plat was that an 8-foot berm was not necessarily needed, but that some topography was desired, and there is, as I mentioned, some modest topography being proposed with the current proposal. This image shows a perspective view from 78th Street, so you can get an idea of what that may look like when the area is fully planted and grown. This is another 78th Street perspective, and then similar to the Cochia Lane area, so you can get an idea of what that screening or buffer would look like. So as I mentioned, the applicant is proposing, however, to meet the requirements of the code when it comes to buffer planting on any of those double and triple fronted lots. So you can see that the proposal is for a very heavily landscaped area in these rear and side lots that are double and triple fronted. Moving on to park, the comprehensive plan does not call for a park on this property, so the applicant is proposing to satisfy the parkland dedication with fee. Staff calculates based on the proposal approximately 2.287 acres of parkland dedication required, which would equal about $240,000. The applicant has proposed, and staff supports, a reduction of $51,000 of that for trail credit that is allowed by city code. So the total proposed parkland dedication fee is currently $189,075. There was discussion during the Planning Commission that there is a desire to further explore if additional parkland is necessary when and if the property to the south of this parcel develops. Trail and sidewalks. So the applicant, as I mentioned, is proposing 8-foot bituminous trail that they are seeking park credit for on the south side of 78th Street from what is being called Jade Lane to Cochia to provide a connection across to the north, as well as 8-foot bituminous along the extension of Cochia on the east side of Cochia. The applicant is also proposing 6-foot concrete sidewalks on one side of all local streets, as is depicted in purple on this screen. There are currently 2 access points proposed, one from Jade Lane off of 78th Street to the north, and then a second access off of the future extension of Cochia Lane on Agate Avenue to the west. As was discussed during the sketch plat process, the applicant is proposing as part of their PUD proposal to extend Cochia Lane along the length of their property as a collector roadway. So there is currently an existing plus or minus 30 feet of right-of-way between the subject parcel and the parcels to the west. The applicant would be providing an additional plus or minus 30 feet to create that 60-foot roadway corridor and constructing that roadway along their property boundary at their expense. Within the development, all public streets would be at a 60-foot right-of-way. There are also 2 temporary cul-de-sacs that are required and being proposed on the streets to the east, in the center and east of this development. However, the applicant has indicated that they're seeking an easement with the southern property owner to potentially extend those cul-de-sacs into that southern property. There, as I mentioned, there is platted right-of-way existing between the 2 parcels, which you can see as part of the 1993 Regina Woods development. So that's indicated on the east side here. The applicant would be providing an additional 30 feet of right-of-way on their parcel. There is currently an existing 30-foot easement on the east side of the parcel that allows for access into the Carver property to the south. The applicant is proposing to retain that 30-foot easement on the east side of the property with the intention that if and when that property to the south develops and that easement is no longer needed, it could be vacated and then would just be retained as part of these parcels that have the easement across it. There was also some planning commission discussion about traffic along 78th Street and some questions to staff. Staff believes that the landscaping that's going to be done, the heavy landscaping that'll be done on 78th Street will help mitigate some of those traffic speeds, and that there will be a review of the stop sign policy to determine the level of control warranted on 78th and Cochia, whether that should be 2-way stop, 4-way stop, what's warranted there. And also it was indicated that the future County Road 5 project will, although a few years away still, will likely alleviate some of the cut-through traffic that takes place in that area. The site utilities proposed concept plan shows the sanitary sewer and water layouts that are generally consistent with city standards. And then stormwater management, if you viewed the planning commission meeting, staff did have some concerns that required some significant revisions with the stormwater management plan. Those revisions have been addressed by the applicant in the week since our planning commission meeting. So there are some conditions that staff has included that we'll go over in just a second, but staff is feeling comfortable with the revisions that have been made to that stormwater management system up to today's meeting. So just to note, there are some easements that would need to be obtained and to ensure that there's a drain tile in working condition on the south side of the property. As I noted, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing. There was one person in attendance, the property owner to the west of this development, who had some questions about sewer and water connectivity and how and when they could be engaged to try to get their parcels connected or stubbed, which was talked through. And then there were also some questions about that right-of-way between the 2 parcels, which staff has confirmed is a platted right-of-way. So in general, staff is supportive of this application with the following conditions: submission of the comprehensive plan amendment for the Met Council to review and ultimate final approval by this council, approval of rezoning from agricultural to PUD with R1 underlying zoning being concurrent with final plat, the applicant addressing all of the items outlined in the staff and engineers memos that have been provided, securing an easement agreement with the adjacent property owner to the south to utilize an existing drain tile system that is there, and ensuring that that drain tile system is in operable condition. The construction of or payment for the construction of Cochia Lane, submission to the city attorney of all the HOA docs and covenants for the development, compliance with the watershed district, the restoration of the on-site 1.2 acre wetland, entering into a development agreement with the city, submission of letter of credit, obtaining all other regulatory approvals, and submission of title work for the final plat, with the final plat for the city attorney's review, as well as submission of a final plat within 90 days of any preliminary plat approval by the city council. So with that, Madam Mayor, I will turn it back over to you for questions and discussions. We do have representatives from the applicant in the audience with us.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Council, I'll open the floor for discussion.
A question.
Councilmember Black.
Thank you. Where you're going to be filling the small wetlands, are you putting houses on that? Or you just?
Come on forward, state your name and for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, city staff. I'm Dean Lauder. I'm the manager of land planning and entitlement for Pulte Homes, 7500 Flying Cloud Drive, Eden Prairie, Minnesota 55344. Some of those wetlands will be in developed areas. Yes, that's why they'll be getting filled in.
And that'll take care of the water? I mean, we won't have to worry about their basements flooding or anything, will we?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, no, the site does function properly for stormwater management, and what we're doing in the south central part that you could see on the plat there is we're actually restoring more wetland than we actually need to, and there will also be ponds there as well. So the site will function very well.
Okay, all right. And then the other question was the landscaping to slow speeds. Is that in the middle of the road, or how is that going to slow speeds?
I don't know if I want to put words in Mr. Dahl's mouth.
Councilmember Black, Mayor, members of the council. Landscaping is looked at, boulevard landscaping as one speed mitigation effort. It does help shrink right of way, at least visually and perception wise. So as car.
The boulevard?
Yeah, the landscaping along the boulevard, correct.
On the side of the road?
Yeah, not in
the center.
Not in the center of the road.
There's not a median.
No, not in the center of the road, no.
They're going to be driving and they're going, oh, those trees look really nice. I'm going to slow down. Just wanted.
It's a much different driving experience, and city engineer Guerin would be able to speak to this better than I can, but it's a much different driving experience when you're out in an open area with a field to the side, and it just seems big and wide and fast.
Psychological.
Yeah, but when you start getting houses on both sides and trees on both sides, it starts to visually shrink that. So it is looked at as a speed mitigation effort from engineering circles.
Okay.
Councilmember Black?
That being said, I'm not an engineer.
All right. I just thought it was odd that landscaping would slow the speed. Okay.
Thanks. Councilmember Roberts?
So the impervious surface, I guess, Marty, can you talk a little bit, I guess, more from a learn, I guess, right? Like what does this staff look at that and see problems with that, I guess?
No, from a staff perspective, we really don't see an issue administering a square footage maximum versus a percentage maximum. It's traditionally been a percentage maximum. I think our standard impervious surface max is 35%. Obviously, the applicant is requesting more impervious surface as part of this PUD development than what our standard is. So 5,000 square feet is using a square foot versus a percentage it's a different way of looking at it. So instead of having very little potential future impervious surface being able to be added from a smaller lot and a lot of impervious surface being able to be added on some of those larger lots. It spreads that burden across all of the lots evenly. So again, from a staff perspective, I don't think there's any difference in how we would administer it. It's just a question of consistency and how we've done things before, and is that, are we gonna have people with larger lots complain because they only have 1,000 square feet of impervious surface versus if they had a percentage, they might be able to do more, but it's just a different way of looking at it.
And then with the stop signs that you mentioned, so I just assume like we would probably do a traffic study at some point, or is that how we would look if we determined that we wanted, if
Yeah,
we're
so-
hearing that people are speeding like crazy through that area?
Yeah, so I will be honest with you, I took that note from Kara's comment during the planning commission that we will review our policy, so I'm not exactly sure what that process will look like to do that. But we typically will review those things to try and determine if it meets those warrants, but the specific process that is done to do that, I'm not sure.
Because obviously a way to slow it down, would obviously to be put a 4-way stop in there if it's an issue, obviously, so.
But that does have to meet warrants before we can.
Yeah,
Sure.
it would likely meet warrants, yeah.
Okay.
Or need to meet warrants. Yeah.
Sure.
And we would know that. Oh,
Right.
sorry, madam.
Yeah, no,
We
Councilmember
would know
Rivera.
what the process is prior to.
Yeah, we would.
Final
Final
sign.
plat, correct.
Other questions, council?
Yeah,
Councilmember Gunderson.
got a couple of them. Sewer connections for the homes that are pretty much sandwiched between Lilac and what's being called, Lilac and Cochia, Mitchell, the Mitchell homes. What was the feedback? What did you give feedback?
Yeah, we'll be reaching out to them. We'll be talking with the applicant about, because we as a city typically would require those to be extended to the property boundary anyway. But because there's no roadway here and the roadway would need to be built, there is some logical sense if they'd like to see those connections made. So I think what we need to do is just get the applicant and the residents to talk about who is in charge of what, who needs to handle what. But we indicated we'd have those conversations as development plans are being finalized.
Is that the home that the gentleman was at the planning commission? Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, because it just, to your point, it makes logical sense that we're building a road, so we should probably stub stuff in, especially that's probably the last two homes, I would guess, in that area that don't have city, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about all of them in that area, and I believe that he noted that his father's parcel to the north, I believe, has water connection, so I think it is just his parcel that doesn't, that isn't connected, I believe.
That works.
Councilmember Gunderson?
Just curious, it goes as really a little thing, but how do we come up with the street names? I actually asked that.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm asking is I was just, with the Arboretum, where the Arboretum's at, and the four, other than the numbered streets, the major roads, streets that are there, except for Chia, are flower named. Pretty much the same thing. So I'm just curious, can we stay with the flower theme, or we're going to a rock kind of thing? Just sorry, got me curious.
It's good, and I've dug into the street name thing as well. The city does not have a street naming policy currently. So typically, we request the applicant to provide proposed street names that the city will then review. And I asked Dean to provide names, which I gave him feedback, and then changed my mind on the feedback I provided him, and asked him to relook at things. But yeah, so typically it's the applicants provided with city feedback, making sure that names aren't duplicative. One thing that is interesting that I learned with this development, and one of the reasons why Jade Lane is the road going north and south, that was, I think, initially proposed to be where Agate Avenue is currently, is that the roadways from Bavaria all the way through the west side of downtown are alphabetical, and there is a perfect missing I and J right where this property is located. So
okay.
You can thank Public Works Director Dave Schoger for pointing that out to me.
Sometimes we get such good questions.
Good.
I think since we have Quamaclit Avenue, we don't need any more weird streets.
Yeah.
That's the max we can do. All right. Anything else, Councilmember Gunderson?
Yes, and then, so I hit them pretty hard on side yard setbacks, so I appreciate the 9 feet. I'm just curious, if you're, I'm actually comfortable with the 15 feet, if you are, or the planning commission is as well. I just am curious to know what is the purpose of a 30-foot versus, I mean, that's a big drastic cut down. So what's the purpose of 30-foot versus the 15?
Yeah, Councilmember Gunderson, Mayor, members of the council. So staff actually did provide feedback to the applicant that we felt comfortable in knowing that the planning commission and the city council likes to see more separation between houses, that might be a way to accomplish that, is to reduce those side yard setbacks. I believe the intention behind it and the way our code is actually written is it's not necessarily 30 feet, but it counts it as 2 front yards. So the code says that if you are in a corner lot, you should have 2 front yards and need to adhere to front yard setback standards for both of those lots. But again, I think in staff's opinion of this, and the planning commission seemed to agree that they would prefer to see more room in between the homes and sacrifice some of that on the one side, which still provides a 15-foot side yard setback on the street side.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gunderson, anything else? Councilmember Hebert?
Just one quick question. Can you go to the rendering that shows the berm and the landscape?
Yeah.
No, I think it was the other one that was more of
That one?
Perspective view, this one?
So, I mean, those look like pretty full-grown trees, right? That's not, I mean, that doesn't happen overnight, so.
Correct. Go ahead.
What size tree are we putting in?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Lauder.
Members of the council, yeah, it should be stated, this perspective would assume a 10-year growth of the plantings. And so we are planting well over 400 trees on this site. So we are putting a lot of plantings in. But these, there might be one other perspective too?
There's
from
2.
Cochia, or there's 2 from 78th and 1 from Cochia. These are all representing what a 10-year growth would look like.
Thank you. Councilmember Hebert? Anything else? Council? All right, with that, we've got, we need a motion to authorize the comp plan amendment. So let's start there. Council, can I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the attached resolution authorizing submittal of a comprehensive plan amendment to the Metropolitan Council.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Second motion, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt attached resolution approving the preliminary plat for Madelyn Trail.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You guys are on your way. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to reports and emergent issues. Attorney Vos, anything from you?
Mayor, I don't, thank you.
All right. Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I would think the question was raised when Mr. Schoenberg came and spoke before us today during open forum. As you know, the workshop that we just had to talk about the pool ordinance, potential revisions occurred prior to the meeting, and he spoke at your open forum comments afterwards. During the workshop, just for the benefit of any residents who are watching us this evening that did not see the workshop, council made a decision not to explore any further after great information that was presented and good dialogue, but made a decision not to explore any further. And then Mr. Schoenberg spoke at the forum, and this would be as an emerging issue. I think the city attorney and I just chatted briefly during the meeting here. This would be an appropriate time for council, should you want to reconsider, to direct staff to bring information back.
Pull your microphone.
Sorry. Council, would you like to reconsider and bring that back?
I would.
Okay.
I mean, we're trying to think of the future, and it's different than anything that we've been accustomed to. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong, and I think that we should look into it a little bit more. There were questions that we had we did not have answers for, and to just shove it aside, I don't think it was the right thing to do.
I didn't mean to shoot him down. It's not, like I said, it's not personal the way that I said it. It's just for us with one request on this particular issue, we're spending staff time on something that may or may not be, and we may or may not ever get another request. I mean, that's probably not, we probably will get other requests for it, but when we start limiting the lot sizes in the neighborhoods, I think that's the slippery slope. And if we don't want them in neighborhoods where kids are, where toddlers are, that with the information that we were presented with in the beginning of the workshop, which is typically the age where they do get attracted to things and they don't have the motor control to stop themselves. I personally, and in my own opinion, think that there's too much user error, and I'm not saying Mr. Schaumburg is going to be that user, but I personally think that this particular auto cover, there's too much user error, and that it's not a fence. It's if they go away on vacation and for whatever reason there's either a malfunction or it opens or they left it open, it causes, while the city may not be liable, I still feel that that's an unreasonable risk to potential accidents. And I think maybe over time, and studies come out that show that these are as safe as a fence, that's, and like I said, I was open, I wanted the information. I'm open to doing it. If it means that we've got to bring it back, but right now I don't have the information that is going to change my mind on staff time in terms of number of requests, and my safety issues, I just don't think are there in terms of research, at least from what I've done, to change my mind on an end answer. So I'm just going to, that's me. If the council chooses to bring it back, I'm all for the conversation. I am, but that's kind of, I'm leaving it that's where I'm at, and that's my thought process. So
I mean, I guess I would say, I mean, we obviously, like Derek said, we could bring it back, and I feel, right, like he didn't have a chance to speak before, we kind of made that decision not to look into it farther, so I feel bad for that, but I hate to just say, well, we're going to look into it and spend a lot of time, looking at this stuff when it kind of sounds like a lot of us, or sadly some of us, are already thinking that it's probably best to keep it the way it is. It speaks volumes that, I think Isaac said it, right? California went to this, allowing a lot of these things, and they're going back. I mean, there's...
Yeah, but how do we know why?
Well,
I mean, we don't have
the
all
reason
the
has to,
information.
right? But there's only one reason why you would go back. It's because kids are dying.
Or the fence is cheaper. Could be that too.
But wouldn't that just be a resident choice, right? Like if you want the cheaper, you don't have to, right? They're not saying you have to do the cover. They just said yes, one or the other. So they still have the choice, but now they've started to make it more strict, it sounds like, to say you have to have a fence. And so to me, that's a telling statement that a state like California...
Well, I don't know. He said that California, they're going back to fences, but they're not doing the covers. I don't know if it's regulation that's doing it or just people are just, I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like regulations, but I guess
Well, from my perspective, it feels like it doesn't affect and impact enough of our residents to warrant spending a lot of time on it. We've got some great safety measures in place now with fencing. It just doesn't impact enough of our members, and I worry about the slippery slope on that. So I'm I'm okay leaving the ordinance as is.
And it's, like Dirk said, like, yes, we're the city, as a city, we wouldn't be liable, but, and you didn't say this, but like, it's a conscience thing too. Like, I would hate to switch it, and then you have a kid that dies,
I
and
wouldn't
now,
want him to just have that.
right? So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a certain amount of, I mean, I would feel terrible for the homeowner if something,
Right.
God forbid, were to happen. But I would also feel that.
right,
Because
yes, that's what I mean.
I mean, and that's, I'm speaking personally, and that's all I can do at this point in the conversation, is just, that's me. And so I understand property owners wanting to do things with their property. And I'm not saying you can't have a pool. I'm just saying, at this point, we have one request versus a bunch of other things that we really want to do. And so staff time is better spent elsewhere. And I probably didn't say that the best, and sometimes I don't, because I had all the information in my head that I wanted to get out, and we had not, it didn't come out the way that I wanted. So I would like to apologize to Mr. Schaumburg if he thought that my intent was at him, that it's a waste of time. It is not a waste of his time. I appreciate the information and the emails and the support he has from his neighbors. I just don't think that we're there in terms of what the mayor has said, a number of requests to spend the staff time to change something prematurely that nobody's on, that we seem to be, we can reevaluate it. It's not that we're shooting it down completely. I'm just saying right now, with things that we want to get done this year and 3 years and 10 years, I think spending the time is what I said earlier.
So for what it's worth, the research I've done was more individual research, talking to people that have pools or have had them in the past in our city, Chaska Chan, and almost, I didn't tell them the basis of my question was, but just asked them if you could have one of those safety covers versus a fence. They all said, safety cover for sure, I'd save, 15, 17 grand. It never ever crossed to the safety factor. And for me, thinking that it's all about safety, right? I mean, having a safe environment, right, for that type of recreation, to me, outweighs any cost savings, that additional layer. So that's what kind of made my decision. But in the same breath, I was open to further discussion. So, I mean, it's a tough one. You make a very valid point, Derek, on the work ahead of us and what we have to do. And we are looking at one request versus, if we had 15 people, would it be different? I don't know, but it's a tough one. And he certainly has. He certainly has done his homework. He certainly was passionate about it. He educated himself, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get a chance to speak ahead of time. And I don't know if that's a process change now that we open up, workshops to public or not. I'm not sure what the process is.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe more the question. I think we all felt terrible about the fact that we had a discussion and we didn't get his input, even though he did email us all. He had extensive research. We read it. We saw his email. I think that's something that maybe we should talk about is if somebody has an opinion about something that we're doing, is that an appropriate time for people to express what they need to express before we make a decision on that? But I think for this issue, I'm looking at around a consensus here, and I'm thinking we're going to keep the ordinance as it is for the time being. That's what I'm seeing.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, terrific. Anything else?
Nothing further.
Okay. Council, any reports or emerging issues from council? Councilmember Black? Councilmember Hebert? Councilmember? Nothing from me? All right. Looks like that's all that's to come before the body here, so let's have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.